The Penguin's Sofia Falcone is a departure from her comic book and animated film counterpart. Showrunner Lauren LaFranc gave the character depth and complexity, turning her into a more than worthy adversary for titular Oz Cobb. Both are strategic, observant, and know how to appeal to other people's egos. Sophia sees people for who and what they are, and often isn't afraid to confront hard truths head-on. Along with her controlling family, Oz knows this highly intelligent, chillingly calculated woman is usually right, prompting them to do whatever they can to minimize her power. In this show about villains and criminals, LaFranc views Sophia as the closest thing we have to a hero, but also knows that she can be just as cruel and ruthless as her enemies and allies. So let's take a look at Sophia's evolution from Mafia Don's daughter to empowered mob boss, and how she stayed true to herself despite many attempts to make her into someone else. From the moment we're introduced to Sofia Falcone in the first episode, we see how her presence makes people uncomfortable. This is because she's just returned from Arkham State Hospital after spending a decade locked in a cell for allegedly murdering 7 women. She's also looking for her younger brother, Alberto, the new kingpin of Gotham since their father was killed. However, seemingly no one else is that concerned about his whereabouts.
He went out last night, he refused his bodyguards, and he never came home.
Sophia, that's enough.
But for Oz, her arrival is not only unexpected but incredibly inconvenient, seeing as how he just killed her brother the night before. She senses he knows something about Alberto, and when they go out for a very intense lunch, we see how other people similarly respond to her presence with a mixture of uneasiness, fear, and judgment. While this negative attention clearly upsets her, Sophia doesn't try to defend herself to anyone. She knows the kind of vibes she brings. She has learned to live with the stigma of being mentally ill, someone people dismiss as unstable. But she's found that she can use it to her advantage by letting people underestimate her, allowing her to make moves unnoticed. This is a big commonality between her and Oz, who is also overlooked and uses that to manipulate, betray, and scheme his way up the ranks.
You know, Oz, people underestimate you, but not me. I've always known you were capable of more.
And it's because she recognizes this common trait in Oz that Sophia can tell that he's hiding something about Alberto. When she continues to probe him for information, he does what he does best: lies. But instead of hashing it out right then and there, she lets it go and plays into the paranoid persona.
No, Oz, you're right. I'm probably just being crazy.
Sophia and her henchmen find a teenage boy who vividly remembers seeing Oz near the Iceberg Lounge the night Alberto disappeared. She gets Oz in a vulnerable position and viciously interrogates him. Knowing how he's nearly always lying, Sophia doesn't hesitate to shoot the kid to prove the point that Oz will do and say anything and everything for self-preservation, including letting innocent people die. She visibly doesn't enjoy killing this boy, but has no qualms with punishing Oz, who is far from innocent. She gives him the chance, multiple chances, to tell the truth, something she'll also do in the finale under different circumstances. This version of Sophia is not physically imposing like in the comics, but her rage makes her unpredictable. She dares Oz to gaslight her.
I want you to really think. Am I crazy? Is it all in my head?
The only reason he survived the encounter is because his protege, Victor, provided rather compelling evidence that Alberto was killed as revenge by the Maroni crime family.
When you've got a lot going on, it can feel difficult to check off everything on your to-do list, especially when the days are getting shorter. That's one place that Factor can be a huge help. Their chefs do all of that prep and cooking work so that those tasty meals show up right on your doorstep, ready to heat and eat. Their meals are also dietitian approved, so you know that you're getting something that's just as nutritious for you as it is delicious. Stay energized this fall without the hassle with the help of America's #1 ready-to-eat meal delivery service. Factor has so many options, from breakfast to lunch to dinner and everything in between, across a whole range from gourmet plus to keto to vegan and veggie and beyond. Their fresh, never frozen meals make it easy to have a tasty meal ready to go in just 2 minutes, without all of the hassle of prep, cooking, or cleanup. If you're ready to make your life a little easier this autumn, head to factormeals.com/thetake50 and use code thetake50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next month. That's code thetake50 at factormeals.com/thetake50 to get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month, while your subscription is active.
Episode 4 recontextualizes the first 3 episodes, taking us back 10 years when Sophia was celebrated as the beautiful, innocent face of the Falcone family's philanthropic efforts. Carmine makes it clear that she's his favorite child because he can count on her to be obedient, unlike Alberto, who seems more interested in his own life than helping with the family business. It's her job as his older sister to make sure he behaves and doesn't embarrass the Falcone name. Carmine tells her that he intends on breaking tradition and making her the next in line to take over, something even she's unsure of.
But the rest of the family, they're not.
They know your mind. They'll do as I say.
But their father-daughter relationship isn't a healthy one. Carmine is cold and emotionless. He praises Sophia for essentially falling in line. He avoids talking about her mother, Isabella, who Sophia found hanging when she was 9. The family lore is that she was mentally ill and took her own life. Carmine is good at manipulating his daughter into thinking that wanting to talk about her is upsetting for him. A journalist named Summer Gleason approaches her about several women who worked at her father's businesses, all strangled to death with defensive wounds but staged as hangings, just like her mother. Sophia starts to doubt that her father is a good man. She doesn't yet do anything with that information, but that one meeting still completely upended Sophia's life because any opposition to her dad made her disposable. And we saw in The Batman that Carmine's MO is strangling inconvenient women like Annika, Maria Kelly, and his daughter Selena. Sophia is profoundly betrayed by not only her father but everyone around her. At Carmine's instruction, her extended family backed up his claims that she's sick like her mother and exhibits violent behavior. LaFranc was inspired by the real tragic story of Rosemary Kennedy, who was lobotomized at 23 for being what her father considered difficult and then hidden away and isolated. Similarly, Carmine has his daughter sent away for his crimes. In every depiction, Arkham has always been notoriously horrific, and we see that firsthand with Sophia as she's subjected to coordinated attacks by other inmates and unnecessary and painful electroconvulsive ECT treatments. Knowing she'd be free of this nightmare after 6 months was the only hope she had, but Carmine saw to it that she would never be released. At that moment, she gives up and becomes forever changed. This is a brutal fate for the daughter of the Falcone Don, who could never have anticipated this level of cruelty from her own family. Alberto was the only one she could count on, which is why she relentlessly pursued justice for his murder. Home is the place where she should feel safe and protected and loved. Instead, this misogynistic family is just another type of prison. She's blatantly unwelcome, and everyone has the audacity to treat her like a pariah, even though they know she was innocent. And as she continues to find out, protecting your own is a universal code that plenty of people abide by. Oz's somewhat girlfriend Eve fiercely safeguards her girls, sex workers who are constantly at risk, and was willing to sacrifice her life just to keep them safe from who she thought was the hangman. To the Falcones, Sophia is just a problem. She's smarter than her uncle Luca, current head of the family, picking up on the fact that her brother's absence meant he was likely dead, and sussing out that there was a double agent in their operation. She was right about it all, and they can't have that. In her Mafia princess era, one of Sophia's biggest assets was her ability to conform and adapt, presenting herself as a dutiful daughter. She does try to go back into her old life by wearing the same somewhat conservative clothes and pushing down her anger and resentment, but after the trauma of being institutionalized, she becomes less and less willing to make herself fit in. A noticeable trait she picks up in Arkham is a feral way of eating. 10 years of having meals in a prison cafeteria erased the need for utensils or etiquette. Part of this is also just to be off-putting to people who already look down on her. Although Sophia was already disillusioned by the reality of her awful family being betrayed by Oz again, the only one to show her respect post-Arkham was a huge wake-up call.
I trusted him when everything in my body told me not to.
She realizes there's no point in trying to fit into this patriarchal mob world and play by their rules. She'll no longer exhaust or limit herself trying to please or gain respect from her family. She stops being a complacent good girl and embraces her true self while enacting revenge. She interrupts a family dinner she wasn't invited to join, wearing heavier makeup and bearing her scars in a bright yellow dress, standing out among everyone else and forcing them to look at her pain, at what she survived. At the head of the dinner table, she delivers a final monologue to the relatives complicit in putting her in Arkham.
I trusted you. I loved you. And yet not one of you tried to help me.
she's finally accepted that the only way for her to heal is to give herself a fresh start. In normal circumstances, annihilating her entire family might be seen as pretty wrong, but after the way they treated her, none of them showing any remorse or interest in her being a part of the family, how thoroughly she was betrayed, it's hard not to root for her. After effectively ending the Falcones, Sophia celebrates her mother, another woman disposed of by the Falcones, by wearing her clothes and taking her last name, embracing her femininity and becoming more confident. The heavy makeup and bulkier silhouette of the fur coat take up space and act as armor. She publicly rejects her father's legacy and vows to build a matriarchal mob family, one that values its otherwise overlooked workers. And when the last remaining member of the Falcones, Johnny Vizzi, tries to interrupt and criticize this new direction, she kills him in front of everyone, finally shutting him up and demonstrating that she isn't just girl bossing. Sofia Gigante means business, because Oz also betrayed Salvatore Maroni by killing his wife and son. Sophia forms an alliance, something that would anger her old family. In Sal, she even briefly finds a fatherly figure. Having empathy in a place like Gotham, in a family like the Falcones, is seen as a weakness, not a strength. But it was empathy that drove her decision to hear Summer out about the deaths of the women. And she even shows empathy to Oz, someone who knows what it's like to be cast aside and demeaned. She feels for his mother Frances, even though she essentially shaped the monster who'd go on to kill her brother. Sophia was never rewarded for her compassion, but punished. Still, that shred of morality lives inside of her, and at times helps her see that some of her actions are what her father would have done. Sophia thought killing Gia's parents would save another young woman from a similar fate, but this lands Gia in an orphanage, and Sophia realizes that she's gaslighting and abandoning Gia like her dad did to her. Whether you see Sofia Gigante as a victim, justified in her questionable actions, an irredeemable villain like Oz and everyone else, or the lesser of two evils, it's undeniable that she's a fascinating character who refused to let herself be defined by others. Sophia doesn't get a happy ending this season. Oz helps send her back to Arkham.
You have always been a monster.
But the arrival of a letter from her half-sister Selena Kyle has us hoping for a team-up. That's the take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.